What was it?
Like this.
Oh, yeah. AI Day?
The AI Day, yeah,
Tell
dude.
us about the MVP. Tesla's MVP.
MVP. Tesla's minimum viable person.
Oh, shoot.
Anyway, it
We
was
gotta
cool.
start trademarking this.
I know, right?
Let's buy the domain and sell it to
Dude.
them.
Absolutely.
Oh,
That's a
shoot.
great idea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell us about AI Day.
Well, I'll give you the highlight. So Tesla unveiled their robot. And really, I'll say this, the event was really focused on a recruiting event. So
it was a nerd fest.
It was a nerd fest. and the real point that he was trying to make, because let's be honest, what he brought out was not,
No.
I mean, you've got Boston Dynamics, right, which is building robots that do backflips.
Yep.
And run up mountains and hills and stuff. This was not that.
Nope.
But in his defense, the thought was, well, this is where we are right now in a year. So we were standing here a year ago with Zip, and now we have a thing that's going to walk around the stage a little bit. And I think for most people were like not that impressed, but I'm guessing that people in that world of robotics would say that sounds like that's pretty fast thinking that they've done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was interesting too is they talked a lot about the fact that, if you think about it that way, they're really trying to prove to these other developers and these, computer scientists, like how they do it. And so a lot of the process they talked about was building what they sort of call this, there's this term called the digital twin.
Mm-hmm.
So they've built in their modeling software that they use to build the cars. They've now built this robot. And so they're able to basically manufacture digitally how this robot works, change all the aspects of how it's built, and then run it in a simulation. And so everything down to so they're not having to sit there and build something and then try it out, and then, if that didn't work, and go and tinker some more, which takes weeks. They're just doing it in this computer simulation and saying, okay, we're going to have it run, and then it falls over. They're like, okay, we'll fix it, weigh it this way, move this. And so it was really interesting because they were able to sort of iterate really fast. But it was interesting because as a result, they finally did build the robot that they had sort of sketched out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was responding differently in the real world than it was in their model.
Right.
So there's a sort of discrepancy. So they had to spend some time figuring out what's the difference. And so once they were able to sort of figure a bit of that out, and they're still working on that, things are starting to work. So it's able to walk, and the hands move, and it does some rudimentary movements and stuff. But it's really interesting. And so from a technical perspective, it was a good show of what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm. And the price point.
Well, and that was kind of
right?
It's one of those things. You're like, did Elon run this by anybody, or did he just drop it? Because I feel like he kind of throws these numbers out, like we're going to create a $35,000 or $30,000 Tesla and a $45,000 Cybertruck, and they really don't happen.
Yeah,
but they get close. And so what he mentioned was a $20,000 robot.
Yeah, that
would basically alleviate poverty worldwide. So get your pre-orders in.
Yeah.
$20K for your own house bot or whatever that's going to work.
And like I said, I was half paying attention, but so how far are they from that first mock-up of the human looking one, the superhero looking one?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably another year at least.
Yeah.
Because they're just, essentially that's just sheet metal.
Looked clunky though.
Yeah, it did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Boston Dynamics one, that one already looks like a well-built, human.
Yeah.
In a sense, like the shell of it.
Yeah.
Or the skeleton of it. And so this one was a little bit different.
Yeah. And
so it kind of chugged its way forward, and And he admitted it. He said we're not doing any. All the tests were recorded because they didn't trust it
Yeah.
to do any live.
But I thought it was funny.
demonstrations.
He's like, up until now, it's been tethered.
Yeah,
And because I'm guessing they're like, dude, if it breaks before the show,
Yep.
like we're screwed.
Yep.
And
They
that's
did
probably
have it
the only
tethered.
one they have.
probably.
You know,
yeah.
like that's the only one that works. So
Yeah.
don't drop it.
Don't.
If it's gonna fall on its face, it's gonna do it at the
Mhm.
on stage.
It would too.
Dude, that was the only thing that honestly, like, think back to the Cybertruck
Oh, man.
fiasco and all the other ones. You're like, oh, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Or it lights on fire and starts burning and like waving as it's,
You almost
melts.
should have let it go out there and
right,
just for the publicity.
right.
You know what I mean?
Because dude, the
That doesn't mean
Cybertruck
he's
thing
still
got
not going to succeed.
the Cybertruck thing got like 10 times the publicity
For
because
sure.
he busted the
They
window.
busted it. Yeah. That was a great
So that's the
moment.
hack.
Yeah.
Like, flop.
Mhm.
Do your worst keynote.
Yeah. It's like,
possible.
man, what was it back in the day when Windows crashed on Bill Gates
Mm-hmm.
on stage?
Yeah, exactly.
You got the blue screen.
Exactly. Or
Oh.
Steve Jobs would get pissed and throw the
Throw
remote.
yeah. You'd be like, here.
Oh, it's
Oh,
the hack. All
it
right,
is
all
the
right.
hack.
Note to self.
Yep.
And
And then they went into the FSD a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I know we're playing around with the idea of getting a couple of full self-driving cars ourselves, but for me it's the future, like, completely. Like
Mhm.
I have zero doubts that that's what we'll be doing in a few years. Just punch in a destination and off you go.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is just so smart, and people I know are really skeptical about it because it's an AI doing the driving. But I mean, I've done it several times on the Model 3, and I mean, I feel safe in it all the time, and it works pretty well, man. And they're improving it literally
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
It's just learning, with all the cars on the road now, and especially here where we live, man. Like, I feel like every other car I see on the road's a Tesla now.
Yeah.
It's
They're
crazy.
everywhere. They're everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, the data they have on
That's it.
Harbor Boulevard alone,
Mhm.
that's what's crazy. Is that they're going to know exactly what happens on this street.
Yeah. And
before
there's
it
a
happens.
famous quote from Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank when he was debating whether or not to invest in Tesla. And I think his son, I think he's into tech, told
Mhm.
him he should buy it. Not because he was more worried about is the car going to succeed,
Mm.
right? Which a lot of people said it wouldn't. But he said that he should because they're a data company, a car
Mm.
company. And so he dug a little bit, and sure enough, the cars are just out there collecting data.
Right.
The ones that don't have, every single Tesla out there
Right.
is collecting data.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you have the package or not.
right.
It's out there
Doing
the work that
Yeah, they
like
all
a
have the
Google
computer on
Maps
Yeah.
Jeep used to do back in the day, right? And probably still does. Drive around every crevice of this earth trying to
Mhm.
get a 360 view, right? There's Teslas right now doing it.
Isn't that so crazy?
Around the world.
Like every one of them has the computer in it,
Every.
but you have to pay. Was it 15,000 to activate it, to turn it on?
It was 12.
Yeah,
we did it.
was. It's up. It's more
It
now.
used to be like 8 or 9, and then
Yeah.
it kept creeping up. It's
Yeah.
got to be 15 now,
or it will be soon. Yeah.
or it will be
Yeah.
100%.
That's crazy.
But so worth it.
Yeah.
And if this robo taxi ever becomes a thing,
well, here's the thing.
oof.
What if you can get a Tesla robot to be your driver? Then you're like,
That's redundant tech, though.
what if
It's
you're like,
redundant. What if the robot decides, no, you're not going over to her house? You know what I mean?
right? Or maybe you make it so that the Tesla robot can drive any car. So you're like, well, it's
That
technically
makes
Tesla,
more sense. That makes
but
more
it's
sense.
I'm getting this bot to drive me around.
That makes more sense.
It's like short circuit, bro. Like it's just gonna be a matter of time until
Johnny Five,
Johnny Five's alive,
dude.
right?
I just saw, what was it? I saw somewhere. It must have been an '80s thing, throwback. And I just saw it on not even too long ago. The Johnny Five, like on a T-shirt or something, and it
Yeah?
just like took me back, and I totally forgot about that character.
Dude,
And how much the Pixar ripoff Johnny Five, like that Wall-E had to have been inspired
Dude.
by Johnny Five. The face.
The face alone.
Alone.
Dude,
It
I
had
didn't think
to
about
be.
that. Yeah. Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way.
Great movie.
Yeah.
All
In
right.
other news.
Other news, I've got some sad news to tell you. Google has decided to discontinue Stadia.
Oh my god.
When did you say that you knew that was going to happen? Right before it even came out?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was a believer though.
You were a believer.
I was a
dude.
believer. I was.
You were.
I was, dude. I was
You
like
were bought in.
I was like, Google's not going to shut this down. They're not that dumb. They know it takes at least 5 years to kind of get a good market.
Didn't they buy a gaming company? Or am I
I don't know. I
what
think
was
they
the
may have.
Activision thing? That was something else, right?
Yeah, that was Blizzard. Activision bought Blizzard.
Oh, that's what it was.
But the whole thing, well, it took some fatal missteps right out of the gate. And one of the big ones was they had built their own gaming studio. So the idea was that they were going to make their own games, just like Nintendo, just like PlayStation, just like Xbox. They all do this, right? They make their own special licensed software or licensed games. And within 6 months of launching Stadia, they just quit the whole team. Like they just shut it down, the whole department, really fast. The problem with that was the fact that part of what Stadia was supposed to be able to do is to bring to bear the whole data center to video games, right? So the idea was, on an Xbox, you're confined to the graphics power of that machine in your living room. That's it. But at Google, we've got warehouses of these data centers, and they're not all being used 100% all the time. So wouldn't it be great if you could use those machines to do video games remotely? And the idea was that you could scale up. So yes, your Xbox is going to have, say 10 cores in it, whatever. Well, I can give you 100 cores to run this game. So it was sort of infinitely scalable. The problem was and that was sort of the idea of this studio, was that they were going to develop games that took advantage of that. But when they got rid of the studio, there was no one to do that, because all you had were games that were written for one processor, then being run on one processor on Google's thing. So there was no difference.
And then any game that came over, I didn't like their business model, which I thought when we got the controllers, because we both got controllers, and we paid for the Stadia Pass, whatever the pass is called. I thought it was all inclusive.
Yeah, and it
for
wasn't.
one price. And all it included was some base set of games that were available, and then you had to pay for the other ones.
Almost full retail.
Yeah, and that to me is like, well then, what's the difference here?
Right, I get to play it remote, same
who
games.
Cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
That should have just been all inclusive. They should have ate that loss.
Right.
To grow this thing.
Right. And now the irony is they're refunding everybody their money back. So, and if you go on Reddit, people have spent $1,000 easy on some of these things. I mean, I want to say probably spent a couple hundred on games, and I'm like, okay. I mean, that's coming, that half, just got to think, half of that money already went to the developers.
Yeah.
And only the other half went to Google. So Google's having to kick back all of it. Not that they don't have the money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, whoa, like you said, if they were just making it free and said, hey, you know what? All we want is mass adoption. We want everybody to have Stadia, like Gmail.
Yep.
Like no brainer. Like it's maybe $10 a month if you want the ad free version or unlocked or whatever. But just get everybody playing it. That's the only way to win. And they went in the opposite way. They're like, no, we're going to make like a product that's going to compete on price, or not even compete on price, but it's going to compete on these other intangible things that people really don't care about. So, but it is interesting because the press is already sort of like saying now that they're like, Google already had a bad track record of killing projects, right? And now they're like, this Stadia thing is just it's gonna leave a mark on Google. Because what's gonna happen? They're gonna come out with some new some new platform.
Yeah.
That they're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's this new thing. It's gonna change everything. And then everyone's gonna be like, it's gonna be like the boy crying
I have
wolf.
an idea. How about fix Chrome? Can we
Right?
stream Chrome on your servers?
How about Android? How about we fix Android for once? Like, just get that right.
No, I don't care about Android. Fix Chrome. You know, wouldn't that be ironic? Like, can I use your Stadia technology just so I can browse using your browser and so it won't eat up my memory?
Can I remotely browse?
Can I remotely use Chrome and your 100 terabytes of... Oh, Lord.
So
Doesn't make any sense.
No, Chrome is so bloated. It's huge.
And yet, there we are using it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've tried to do Brave. I keep coming back, and it's the damn extensions that keep me.
Yeah. There's another one that just came out. I forget what it is, but you actually have to pay for it. Like, it has a subscription.
Well, I think a Web3 browser is coming.
Really?
Yeah. I'm almost certain of it. You probably need your wallet to run it.
Yeah.
And Brave had some component of that in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Brave did run extensions, but, it didn't sync.
No.
That was the problem.
That's the big time.
It wouldn't
how
keep it
many G Suite accounts do we have? And it makes it really easy to toggle and save or browse your tabs from other devices and vice versa. But it's just so bloated.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's interesting to see Google try to pick up the pieces here and But I've heard too, like they said that they were slowing some other projects down that they have, and then or was it Facebook that's doing a hiring freeze? So some companies are starting to tighten the belts a little bit. So,
anyways, go put your deposits in
for
your MVP, your minimal viable person, and happy AI Day.
Happy AI Day. Yes, dude. But if you watch, it did this, and it did this. It did like the.